verses 24 to 30 covered the 12 yajnas, which we concluded verses 25 to 30. In fact, covered the 12 yajnas. Now, verses 31 to 37, he is going to talk about how all these yajnas culminate in wisdom. Now, as we have learned clearly, that yajna is to perform an action, any action for that matter. Yajna is to perform an action with a spirit of service and sacrifice. As long as there is an element of service and sacrifice, it becomes an act of yajna. And here, these set of verses, he says how all yajnas culminate into that wisdom. All right, so let's get on with the text. We will chant verse 31 twice together. Yajñashishtamrita bhujaha yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokostya yajñasya kutonyah kuru sattama. Yajñashishtamrita bhujaha yanti brahma sanatanam nayam lokostya yajñasya kutonyah kuru sattama. The Lord continues, the eaters of nectar, yajna shishtha mruta bhujaha. Amruta bhujaha, amruta bhujaha, amruta is nectar. Bhujaha means the eaters of nectar. Who are the eaters of nectar? The remnants of sacrifice. Yajna shishtha. I'll get to that. So the eaters of nectar, remnants of sacrifice, go to the eternal Brahman. Yanti Brahma Sanatanam. Sanatanam means eternal. That which never perishes. This world is not for the non-sacrificer. How then the other? O Kuru Sattama, O Arjuna, you are the best amongst the Kuru clan. You stand out amongst them. Therefore, I am sharing this information with you. The eaters of nectar go to eternal Brahman. This world is not for the non-sacrificer. Nayam lokostya yajñasya. Na ayam. Not this loka. This world is not for the ayajñasya. As I've said, the yajna is to perform an action with the spirit of sacrifice. A yajna, the moment you add the word a before any Sanskrit word, it implicates exactly the opposite. So the word a yajna means a spirit of non-sacrifice. I think it's a very simple question. Each one of us, just go and stand in front of the mirror and ask this question. How many of my actions, from the day I get on with action till I get to the end of the day, how many of my actions are performed in a spirit of yajna and how many actions are performed with a spirit of non-yajna? You've got to very genuinely ask yourself so that you take a stock of your life and find out who you are. Because very clearly this verse says, in fact, none clearer than this verse, he says, this world is not designed for the non-sacrificer. In fact, even in that language, the way he puts it, he's intentionally putting it in an indirect tone, in a passive voice, instead of saying directly. In fact, the message means this world is designed only for the sacrifices. Means if you choose to live a life of a non-sacrificer, means if you choose to live a selfish and a self-centered life, you are unfit to be in this world. You don't belong to this loka. Now, where you belong, don't ask me that. He just says you don't belong here. Now, why does he say that fundamentally? If you just look out into nature, you look at the other kingdoms, the plant kingdom. When you look at the plant kingdom, every time you throw seeds, every time you sow seeds, the earth yields vegetation, doesn't it? Any number of times you do that, the earth has the rasa, it has the ability to produce vegetation. What does it demand from you? What does it take from you? Isn't it operating in the spirit of service? All the plant kingdoms, whether you go to a flower which gives fragrance, whether a plant or a tree that yields fruits, or a flower or a plant which gives beautiful flowers, whatever it may be, even the honey you get, the flowers which contain it, is there any condition? Every time a bird draws it out, it regenerates it with the only spirit of giving. So the entire plant kingdom is giving, the entire animal kingdom is operating with the only spirit of giving. It's only a human being that cultivates this habit of a non-yajna, and is only a human being has to go through seminars of stress and has problems with life. No other creature on earth, no other being on this planet earth functions other than what it's meant to be. It's only a human that chooses, that makes the wrong choice. And sometimes we think, why did Lord give us this choice? Reminding ourselves of what we discussed last week. We have got this free will, this purushartha, to do all that we can with our lives. And perhaps in that freedom, you're making a mess of the choice. You have the freedom to be a giver, you have a freedom to be a taker. You have a freedom to perform acts of yajna, the acts of sacrifice, or you have the freedom to perform acts of aggrandization. You can think of yourself and aggrandize and operate with the spirit of greed, or you can operate with the spirit of sacrifice. It is in that choice we make an error. In that choice we make a mistake. But all animals, they don't have a choice. They live a life which is predetermined. They don't have that freedom. But what we have an advantage is we have got that free will, that purushartha, the intellect, just to expand that very ability. No animal or plant is conscious of its acts of service. It's only a human can perform such an act and become conscious of that act. And that's a blessing. And if you don't do that, he says, this world is not designed for you. So he's putting it in a very passive voice. Now every act, the lady who gets up in the morning to prepare food for the children, for the husband, for the family, what is the spirit that lady takes to prepare the food? What is the spirit with which the husband, who is a breadwinner, goes to work? What is the spirit with which everybody are doing whatever their duties are? Is there a spirit of sacrifice in it? If not, wherever there is a spirit of non-sacrifice, it creates a rupture. It creates a friction. It creates a problem. You've got to understand this. Let this fundamental principle of life be understood. As long as you're a giver, you are wanted in the society. Remember this. The moment you become a taker, you are not wanted even in your own home. Forget outside. In your own home, the moment you are of no use to anyone, you are not wanted in your own home. So the only way you become useful is by being a giver, by adopting the spirit of sacrifice. So here he says, This world is not for the non-sacrificer. This world is only for the giver, for the one who performs with the spirit of yajna. And then, if you were to adopt that life of giving a spirit of yajna, he says you become the eaters of nectar. What does it mean? It means you lead a nectarine life. Whatever you do in your life, you will find you are reveling in peace and bliss and happiness. You may not understand the intensity of that statement. You may not understand the pregnancy of that statement. You may not understand the potency of that. You will only understand the potency of that when you understand the contrary of it. Now, the statement here says, eaters of nectar, means you live a life of nectar, means your life is full of joy, peace, and happiness. You can also say you are contented in life. And this is connected to when you live a life of yajna, you lead a nectarine life. It is not quantified, it is not qualified. Whatever you do, wherever you are, you will find yourself reveling in peace and bliss. Now, what would be the opposite of that? Opposite of that is those who live a life of selfishness, egoistic self-centeredness. They will go through a literal, veritable hell. Their life will be ridden with full of obstacles, full of poison, which is the very opposite of nectar. You will find your life is you go through a lot of pain. It could be through relationships, it could be through your health, it could be through your neighbors, it could be any factor that contributes towards your suffering. As long as you are going through suffering, don't blame the object or instrument that causes it. Now, many a time we usually blame those who are instrumental for our suffering. Very rarely we understand, why am I fundamentally going through the suffering? The suffering one goes through is because, as simple as this, law of karma. You may understand it, you may not understand it. Like many people often say, what have I done to deserve this? Isn't it? What have I done to deserve this? But understand, the law of life only gives what you deserve. So if you deserve it, you will get it. So if you're going through a certain amount of pain or agony or agitation in your life, suffering in your life, it's because of your own making. So the law of karma. So when you find yourself leading a selfish, self-centered life, you will find you will never be contented. Either you learn that through experience or you learn that through the Shastras. But you got to learn it some way or the other, isn't it? But there are people who will not learn through knowledge, nor through they learn through experience. So they carry on leading a life of greed, craving, obsession. They keep chasing their own selfish personal desires, thinking the purpose of life is to fulfill them. But such a life, you will not find yourself peaceful or happy or contented. Now you got to weigh both these aspects of life. Both these paths must be truly measured and make the right choice which path you want to take, whether the path of sacrifice or the path of aggrandize. Choice is yours. So he says once you do that, you will lead a nectarine life. In fact, Samuel Coleridge very beautifully puts it. Samuel Coleridge, in a very famous quote, he says, "For him in vain the envious seasons roll. For him in vain the envious seasons roll, who bears eternal summer in his soul." I don't know whether you get what that quote means. The seasons are rolling by, he says. The envious seasons are rolling by. It could be spring, it could be autumn, it could be winter, it could be monsoon, it could be anything. The seasons are rolling by, but eternal summer in his soul means right within, all the while there is eternal sunshine that settles on his head. Means there is eternal wisdom, there is eternal happiness. He is not affected by anything that happens externally. Anything happens doesn't taunt him, doesn't hurt him. He has found himself well insulated by all the happenings of the world. He is well contented. In the second chapter of the Gita, he says, all the joy doesn't enhance his joy, all the sorrow doesn't diminish his happiness. If you give all what you can add to him, it doesn't enhance his joy. He's already paripurna. You take away a little bit of joy from him, it doesn't make a difference. So that fullness is ever present. So you're not affected by things that's happening. That's what he means by the eaters of nectar. And such people, where do they go? They go to the eternal Brahman. Not only that do you lead a life of peace and bliss, the journey is very, very pleasant. The destination you reach is you reach the eternal abode, which is Brahman or realization. Look at this, how complete they are. Not only, a true description or true knowledge transmission is not only does it take you, gives you the path, it also gives you the clarity of the goal and it takes you to the goal. So once you're on the right path, it takes you right up to the destination. So the purpose of life is to attain realization. So the path takes you there. And what is the path you got to adopt? The path of yajna, the path of sacrifice. So all what you got to understand is by leading a life of yajna, you are injecting that spirit of joy, happiness, contentment. You are reveling in bliss. Irrespective of where you are, irrespective of what you're going through, what you need to change is change your attitude. Change your attitude from spirit of non-yajna to yajna. Spirit of selfishness to spirit of unselfishness. From a spirit of taker to the spirit of giver. It's just that switch. The moment you sacrifice, the moment you operate with that spirit, instantly you start seeing the results. And when we talk of giving, in fact, our shastras or the scriptures is full of such examples, anecdotes, describing characters who have lived that life of sacrifice. I'll take two such examples. One is the great Bhishma. Bhishma was known as the Bhishma the Terrible because of the sacrifice he did. The sacrifice he did for his father. He sacrificed his kingdom. He chose not to get married. What sacrifice? I don't want to get into the story, but you know what the story conveys. Therefore, Bhishma is known as the Bhishma the Terrible. He created the terror into the minds of people because of the grandeur of his personality. Now, second is in the play Daffodils. Who is that who wrote the famous poem? Not the play, it's the poem Daffodils. Who wrote that? So, quoting from two different sources, yes. It is William Wordsworth, a very famous Wordsworth. Now, William Wordsworth in the poem Daffodils, and he steals the show. He hits a master stroke in the very first line. You know what's the very first line of the poem? He says, I wandered lonely as a cloud. Just write down that statement. I wandered lonely as a cloud. And in fact, this statement, this seemingly innocuous statement, conveys the true spirit of yajna. Amazing, what depth, what perception they had. I'm just trying to give you a different flavor. You might, and the source is here. Please believe me, there's nothing greater than what we are tapping. The very Vedas are the very source, but it does give you a little flavor when you pick up from different sources. So I wandered lonely as a cloud. First of all, he said I wandered. He never went with his family and his caravan. He only traveled alone. When you travel, usually it is your jingbang. Your father, mother, father-in-law, mother-in-law, and then your family, and then your grandchildren, and then your family of 15, 20 will go on a holiday. So it is usually full of attachments. The moment when he says I, it is alone, a spirit of detachment. He didn't go with anyone else. I wandered. Okay, so big deal, sir. Wandered, he must have nothing to do, therefore he kept wandering the world. No. He wandered lonely, conveys spirit of detachment as a cloud. When he wandered, he became a cloud. And what is the symbolism? What is that symbolic nature of a cloud? Like some of us who are from Hyderabad or the Twin Cities, yesterday night it was pouring. Pouring and pouring and pouring. So much of rain. We are so happy to receive. And which means wherever there is cloud, wherever there is rain, there is life, thrives, isn't it? There is vegetation. There is life. Everything is bristling with freshness. Life ceases to exist if there is no water. I don't have to tell you that. So when the clouds gather and when they give rain, they give life. So wherever they go, they regenerate life, they give life. But in the process of giving life, what have they done? In the process of giving rain, what have they done? They have emptied themselves, and in the process of emptying themselves, they have not just given rain, they have given themselves away. When the clouds open up and give themselves and give rain, thereafter, after the rain stops, you look up into the sky, there's a clear sky, there's a blue sky, there are no more clouds. So the true giving is to give yourself away. That's true giving, men. That is the true spirit of sacrifice. Now you are giving in bits and pieces. You hold on to it and then just part with here and there just to appease your conscience. You don't give to appease your conscience for God's sake. You give so that you live. To withhold is to die and perish. Remember this. You want to withhold, you want to hold on, you want to hold, you want to aggrandize, which is to die. To give is to breathe that spirit of life, which is what life is. So when Wordsworth says, I wandered lonely as a cloud, he is talking pure karma yoga, the yoga of action, to do what your duty is, to live a life of service and sacrifice. I wandered lonely as a cloud. And if you do wander as a cloud, what happens? Instantly the clouds are high over vales and hills, isn't it? Instantly you rise above the hills and the vales, the crests and troughs of life, the peaks and the bottom of life. You are above the vicissitudes of life. You rise above the fluctuations of life. You remain unaffected by the things that happen around you, the good and the bad, the profit and the loss, the vice and the virtue, the benefactor and the malefactor. All these opposites don't hurt you. You become immune. So however you look at it, the true spirit of life is to live a life of giving. And when you give, learn not to give, but learn to give yourself away in it. That is true giving. You understand? So, one who does this, such a person, he goes to the eternal Brahman. What a beautiful. How then not the other? When if it is not meant for anybody else than the sacrificer. This world is not meant for anybody else. I hope the message resonates with you well, because ultimately you will have to inject the spirit in every act. Now, as I'm talking to you, what is the attitude behind this action? So the only acid test, litmus test, each one of us have to put ourselves through at every juncture, at every stage of action, is at the performance of action, even before you get into the action, what is the purpose? By just asking this simple question, why am I doing it? What is the purpose of this action? And when you question the purpose, you are questioning the very intention of that action. Why am I doing it? So this act of me talking on the Gita, if it is just to satisfy my own personal interest, if I have a hidden agenda, and if I'm in some way camouflaging it very well that none of you get an idea of what it is, and if I'm trying to do just to satisfy that, this is non-yajna. Even though I may be talking on the Gita, I may be speaking on the Vedanta, but it is no big deal because I'm just doing it to merely satisfy my own personal interest. But if the spirit is to serve, if the intention is to, in the interest of others, to accommodate others, it becomes a yajna. So yajna or non-yajna boils down to what is the attitude, what is the intention, what drives you into a particular action. And that's the test, and you know it best. It is not for me to sit in judgment of you, or nor should you sit there and judge others out there. It's for you to find out to what extent your thoughts and intentions are in a spirit of sacrifice or a spirit of aggrandizing. Okay, here he makes a statement. Take a particular note, a very, very emphatic statement. He assures you, not only is your journey going to be nectarine, you shall reach the eternal abode. And the soul, and the only thing you got to hold on to is yajna. And he reiterates that in the next verse. Evam bahuvidha yajnaha vitata brahmano mukhe कर्मजान् विद्धि तान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे एवं बहुविधा यज्ञाः वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान् विद्धि तान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे. Beautiful. Evam bahuvida yajnaha. Thus, innumerable, manifold sacrifices lie spread out before Brahman. Manifold sacrifices are spread before Brahman. Know them all to be born of karma. Karmajan vidhi tan sarvan. Born of action, karmajan. Vidhi means, please understand. Please learn that all are born of action. Thus knowing, you shall be liberated. Evam jnatva vimokshase. I genuinely believe that there's every truth in it. I'm not even believe it. I'm so convinced with it. But I hope it is as easy as he says it. You may say, know them all to be born of action. You say, yes sir, I know that. But where is liberation? I am still bound, sir. So the true knowing, see, when I say this, there's nothing new he said today, or so far what he said, everything I know, everything I've heard, more than once I've heard, I know it all. Very boring, You say you think know everything. I prostrate, I bow down to your knowledge and knowing. But remember, if you truly know, that knowing must liberate you. That's what he says. Karmajan vidhitan sarvan evam jnatva vimokshase. So the knowing is not mere superficial, my dear. You got to get into it. You got to get immersed by it. Imagine if you take a lead ball, take a lead ball and you drop it in a bowl. You have in a glass jar. You have a glass jar which is full of honey, and you take a lead ball and you just drop the lead ball. What happens to that lead ball? It it becomes completely engulfed, completely consumed, as it were, by honey. Okay, let me take another example. You take the same iron ball. You take an iron ball and you throw it into a furnace. You throw it into fire. What happens to that iron ball when it is thrown into the furnace? What happens to the iron ball? Correct, Sitaramji. That iron ball, which has an identity, which has that strong characteristics of the atoms or the molecules that bind it and give that character, when you throw into fire, it slowly starts losing its character. It starts losing its true nature and starts borrowing the nature of fire. So it starts, you can start seeing it getting hot, red hot, and if you leave it, it ultimately becomes liquid fire. It loses its nature, it gains that nature of what it's identifying with. That, in short, is knowing. Knowing is not merely knowing, knowing is becoming. Remember that. Therefore, they say self-realization is not a knowing. Self-realization is not an experience. Self-realization is a state you become one with it. It's a becoming. So you lose your trait, you gain that trait. So there is that depth in that word vidhi. Vidhi is not just mere information, it is a real becoming. So when you know that all actions are born, all sacrifices are born from action, innumerable sacrifices are born and all of them are spread before Brahman, means what he's saying is every action can be converted into a yajna. It is not just the 12 yajnas we learned till now. Any action can be converted into a yajna. 12 yajnas is just a sample, my dear. Any action, manifold, all of them, it's just a poetic expression. Innumerable sacrifices, all of them can be offered to Brahman. In fact, in the third chapter, if you all remember, those of you who did the third chapter, in the 14th and the 15th verse, the third chapter, 14th and 15th verse, he gives an agricultural metaphor. An agricultural metaphor, he starts by saying everything starts with Brahman. From Brahman comes Brahma. Brahman is the reality. Brahma is the creator. From the creator comes all the terrestrial actions. Of the terrestrial actions, there is yajna. When you perform yajna, there is an ancient belief system that clouds gather and they give rain. And where there is rain, there is food. Where there is food, there is living beings. There's life. So the agricultural metaphor, the thought is Brahman, Brahma, all terrestrial actions, all worldly actions, from them comes yajna. When you do yajna, there is rain. Where there is rain, there is food. When there is food, there is livelihood. What you got to understand from what do you gather from this? I hope you all are following what I'm saying. I am going on talking. I do not know where your mind is. I hope you are with me. Jayama, what is the message? What am I trying to say? Yes, ma, Hari Om.
So everything is born out of the Brahman, and all terrestrial, the form of terrestrial living should result in a yajna spirit, so that there is food, livelihood, and once again through the yajna one can reach the Brahman. It's a full one cycle.
Yes. So the pivot, the center of that agricultural metaphor, the pivot is yajna. Yajna is that which connects to Brahman, takes you back to Brahman. Now the question is, how does one convert action into a yajna? How does one convert? We have discussed this in detail before. By thinking about the action and its purpose. Actions performed with the spirit of love, through the spirit of sacrifice, renunciation in action, operating from the intellect. See, you must understand that actions with the spirit of yajna take you to Brahman, isn't it? Are you all with me? Actions with the spirit of yajna take you to Brahman. So, if you are operating with the spirit of yajna, you are operating in the spirit of Brahman. Am I right when to say that? If your actions of yajna are taken to Brahman, so the spirit of Brahman is resonating through the actions of yajna. That's a logical conclusion, isn't it? So in order to understand how do you perform action with the spirit of yajna, you got to understand, at least attempt, know, vidhi. This is what he's saying. Vidhi, when you say no, how do you perform action with the spirit of yajna? How do you get connected with Brahman in and through every action? So what is the stance of Brahman to the action? I do not know whether you're able to see the connection, but it's just like you're sewing and the thread just follows the needle. I'm just trying to connect it. You got to follow as the thread follows the needle. If you follow it, you see a connection. Otherwise, you miss it. I'm repeating it. Any action can be converted into yajna. Point one. Now, when you perform an action with the spirit of a yajna, you are resonating the spirit of Brahman through the spirit of that action, which is the yajna spirit. Alright. Now, if you want to convert action to yajna, you must understand what is the stance of Brahman with reference to the action. So, when you understand the relationship between Brahman and action, That is when you truly enter the spirit of yajna. I repeat the last sentence again. When you understand the relationship of Brahman to your action, that is when you get into the spirit of yajna. Now I ask you all, what is the spirit of Brahman with reference to your action? What is the stance Brahman takes to your action? Brahman is God in layman's terms. What is the stance of God to your action? By offering the action to the Brahman, Ayushi is saying, Ayushi, what we are saying is, when you offer your actions to Brahman, those actions are yajna, isn't it? Now the whole exercise is, any action when I'm performing, how can you convert into yajna? By understanding what is the stance of Brahman. Now go back to the example of that iron ball and fire. When the iron ball identifies with fire, it becomes fire. When your actions identify with Brahman, it becomes Brahman. Yajna is only a tool to get to Brahman. So when your actions are in yajna, you get to Brahman. Isn't it? All the while I'm saying this, when your actions are done in the spirit of yajna, they take you to Brahman. But how do you get into that spirit of yajna? How do you ensure that you get anchored in that spirit of yajna? Is by developing or cultivating this attitude of being a witness. It is one of the most difficult things to practice. But you've got to try it out. There is no other way. You've got to learn to be a sakshi, a witness to your actions. If you ask Brahman, the God, are you interested in attending the Gita classes? What will God say? You go to God and ask, oh Lord, I have decided that every Sunday I want to sit and learn the Gita, Bhagavad Gita. And ask God, what is your opinion? Please tell me. What will God say? God will be like this, silent, no comments. Oh no, he will not say anything. So just to convey that I didn't say anything for a few seconds, nothing he'll say, he'll just look at you as if he has no interest in it. Then you say, I am fed up and tired of this Gita and philosophy, I just want to enjoy life. I just want to have maja of life. Oh Lord, what is your opinion? What will God say? He'll not even make any face. He'll just look at you like that. No interest. So the Lord has no interest in any choices you take. Whether you want to spiritually evolve, you want to spiritually devolve, Brahman or God has got no interest in it, has no participation in it. He doesn't get involved in it. But yet nothing moves without nothing moves without Brahman. I think it is in the Mundaka Upanishad, if I'm not wrong. He puts a blade of grass and the wind god goes to test what is that. The entire cyclone goes there and yet the blade of grass doesn't move an inch. And the wind god comes back and says, I do not know what it is. Then the fire god goes to burn that blade of grass. The fire god also doesn't know. What is that? So all these elements are very arrogant that they can do anything, but they fail to realize that the main source is that the main power Power supply. The power supply of the house is switched off. None of these gadgets will work. So Brahman is the main power source. Because of that, everything happens. But it has got nothing to do with anything. Brahman is a witness, just like electricity is a witness. Because of electricity, the light glows, the bulb glows, gives light, luminosity. The air conditioner gives cooling. The heater gives heat. The refrigerator gives refrigeration. The fan gives breeze. But yet, electricity has neither refrigeration in it, the electricity has neither heat in it, the electricity has neither cooling in it, neither electricity has got breeze in it. But yet, none of this happens without electricity. So, what is the stance of electricity to it? It is a mere witness. So, understand one of the most simplest of statements and yet most potent statements is with it, everything happens. Without it, nothing happens, yet it has got nothing to do with the happening. As simple as that. With it, everything happens. Without it, nothing happens, yet it has got nothing to do with the happening. That is Brahman, that is God, that is being a witness, which is nothing but maintaining a Sakshi Bhav, maintaining an attitude of witness. So, borrowing that concept of Brahman, how do you inject that concept of Brahman in action? So, when you are performing action, whatever be the action, understand you have to maintain an attitude of a witness. Do not get involved in the gunas. Do not get involved in the vasanas. Don't get involved in prakriti. Don't get carried away by all what you're doing, man. Just like if you can perform your duties in life as simple as like an actor on the stage. Who said that? Who said that famous phrase, actor on the stage? Ayushi, do you know? Who said that? Our Pradama Shishya is a Pradama to answer. William Shakespeare. Which play was that? All the world is a stage. All men and women are mere players. They have their exits and entrances. I think, if I'm not wrong, it's the play As You Like It, isn't it? All the world is a stage. So, what is the attitude of an actor on the stage? I think we have to give mic access to Sitaramji. What is that? Mera Naam Joker, sir? Or we can give access to our Sudhakar Garu. He's a musician amongst us. What song are you referring to? Yeah, Sitaramji, what is that song? I'm not able to remember. Sudhakar Garu, you have got the mic access. Can you please sing that song for us? Shiva, Sudhakar Garu is not singing. Ninga padungo. தெரியுமா song? பாடு தெரியுமா? Yes, sir. Can't hear you, Shiva. What happened to the... Can you all see the chat box? I don't know what happened to the chat box now. The chat box is playing hide and seek. Okay. We have lost our old chat, but can you all see that? I just typed something. Okay. So, I suppose you all can refer to what we were saying as an actor on the stage. The spirit of an actor is he takes on that role, and while he gets into the role, he has to maintain a spirit of objectivity. He doesn't get carried away by the role. So whatever happens on the stage, he does his best to that role, but he remains unaffected because he doesn't identify with that role. He doesn't get involved in the role. Similarly, if you take to life and perform your actions in that spirit of objectivity, by not getting involved, whether you're a father or a mother or a son or a director or a soldier or a prime minister or just an ordinary servant in the house, it doesn't make your role any great or less. It is how you go about doing it, just by understanding it, the role. And the moment you do that, you are detaching yourself from the role. And in that spirit, you are able to translate your action into a yajna. It becomes worship. And worship is not a part-time pastime affair. Worshipping is a full-time awareness. I didn't understand this statement for a long time. And then when it hit me so hard. And then I never got off it. Many people think worship is a part-time pastime activity. Worship is a full-time awareness. So you maintain the thought in every spirit of your action. So all you need to understand is innumerable sacrifices lie spread before Brahman. Know them all to be born of action. Everything is born by prakriti, by vasanas, by nature, by gunas. You got to be objective to it. Be objective to it. Convert it into a yajna and evolve. Alright, so just take a note of the principle, how it all works. Alright. Let's move on. Verse 33. Shreyan dravyamaya yajnat jnana yajnah parantapa sarvam karmakhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. Shreyan dravyamaya yajnat jnana yajnah parantapa sarvam karmakhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. Now here he is mentioning of something which he mentioned in verse 28. Superior is sacrifice of wisdom to sacrifice of wealth. Shreyan Dravyamayat yajnat jnana yajna parantapa. Jnana yajna, the yajna of sacrifice of wisdom, is way superior to the dravya yajna, which is sacrifice of wealth, or parantapa, or Arjuna. All actions in their entirety culminate in wisdom. Whatever be the action, ultimately they all culminate in wisdom, which is very much the title of the chapter. The title of the fourth chapter is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. The yoga of renunciation of action in wisdom. So actions culminate into wisdom. So whether you're performing Dravya Yajna or Swadhyaya Yajna, you must understand the spirit of Yajna is that which is important. So the four Yajnas which was mentioned in the 28th verse, the Dravya Yajna is Yajna of service at the material level. The material service is the lowest of all services. Before you do material service, what service are you doing? Seturamanji, before you do Dravya Yajna, before you do the service at the material level, what service are you doing? We can't hear you. Now you may try.
Dravya Yagna is the lowest of all sacrifices.
Yes.
So before,
Now, Mike, that's what the verse says.
yeah,
Before Dravya, what Yajna, what service are you doing?
selfish. I don't do any sacrifice. Obligatory duties.
Sir, obligated duty means what, you know?
It's a sort of a sacrifice.
Now I'm coming every Sunday from 11:30 to 12:45. I'm doing my obligated duty. Would you call that a selfish activity? So when one performs obligated duty, in the true spirit of the term, obligated duty means selfless actions, which are desireless actions, the highest of all actions. But before you do dravya, before you do material service, you're doing what is known as self-service. You're selfish. You're only serving yourself. So the first step of serving is you serve others before you serve yourself. Dravya. Just share what little you have with others. So that's the lowest of all things you can. And then superior to Dravya Yajna is Tapo Yajna. Tapo Yajna is sacrifice at the physical level. Tapaha is the body. You do physical service, physical sacrifices, not material sacrifices, physical sacrifices. Superior to Tapo Yajna is Yoga Yajna, is service or sacrifice at the emotional and intellectual level. You're able to give emotions and ideas and knowledge. And then he says, Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna is to give the very knowledge or the very experience of Brahman or Atman. You're giving the knowledge of the self. And the knowledge of the self, if you have to part, it's understood you have to have it. So you embark on a life of leading a life of an ascetic with strict, rigid vows. Means you live a life of high discipline and sacrifice, so that the life of rigid vows, the rigid discipline, that self-imposed ascetic life invokes the Atman in you. So when the Atman in you gets invoked, then you are able to share it with others. You're able to part that Atma Vidya to others. So it's imperative that you lead a life of an ascetic, a life of rigid vows in order to invoke the self and part with it. Therefore, he only mentions it here that Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna is the highest of all sacrifices. And why he says it, and the fact that in spite of it being said, it is not known. The majority of people don't consider this as the highest of all sacrifices because they do not know it. As simple as that. Nobody, very rare people know it. A small percentage of people embark on it and do it. So majority of them, of the people who are doing services, are holding on to the first three aspects. Hardly anybody comes to doing Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. The fourth, hardly anybody does it. And I must be very clear that all what you find this institution is embarked on is to do Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. Nothing else. Is established, is done with the only objective of giving this knowledge of the self to you. Is a temple of knowledge. That's about all. And everything that is done is to invoke that knowledge within you, that spark within you, and wisdom within you. Once you have it, you will spread it to all. Okay? He just mentions as a matter of fact, and I just referred to the other two yajnas because it was mentioned in verse 28 for those of you who are not aware of that, which was mentioned in 28th verse. Alright, so let's take 34. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninastatvadarshinaha tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninastatvadarshinaha. Very, very famous verse because here he gives the three qualities of a student. If you want to be a student of this knowledge, he says the three qualities. First he says, know that by prostration. Tadvidhi pranipatena, by prostration, by questioning, pariprashnena, and by service, sevaya. The wise who have realized the truth will instruct you the knowledge, will teach you the knowledge. So if you want to receive this knowledge by the wise, these are the three qualities essential which make you worthy of receiving the knowledge. That's the point you got to note. So the three qualities which make a student worthy of receiving the knowledge are the three qualities. What are the three qualities? If you have the three qualities, he says a competent guru will come and teach you. Now it's not your duty to see how competent the guru is. Your duty to find out how deserving am I, how qualified am I. So most of the time we are sitting in judgment of the guru, isn't it? So never mind, you don't worry of the guru, you worry about yourself. You make sure you have these three qualities, keep polishing them, the right guru will come to you. So the more you have these qualities, the more you will be able to receive, assimilate, and get transformed. So the three qualities at the three levels of your personality. First is you got to, he says, at the intellectual level, you got to question the master. Prashnena. You got to question the knowledge, but not to challenge the guru. Never should you question to challenge their understanding or their wisdom. You're trying to question your understanding so that you clarify what is being said. So prashnena is a level at the intellectual level. At the intellectual level, you must always question the teacher, a spirit of inquiry. In fact, how was the Bhagavad Gita taught? The very subject matter we are learning, how was it taught? Yes, Gayatri Ma, you're right. It was a dialogue. It was nothing but a conversation. It was a question and answer dialogue between the Lord and Arjuna. So it was a question. So you must always understand that traditional way of teaching this knowledge is through a dialogue, is by a question answer session. So when the student asked the question, the Lord answered, the Guru answers. So question. Now when you question, there is an element of arrogance creeping in. To arrest that, he says, pranipatena. You must question in the spirit of devotion. So the emotion must be there to protect that arrogance. And devotion is nothing but I'll come back to this verse again. I'll just quickly mention it and I'll explain it next week. So the questioning at the intellectual level, you need to question, to exercise the intellect, but in the atmosphere of devotion so that you don't develop arrogance. And then at the physical level, you got to do sevaya. You must serve the Guru, he says. You must serve the knowledge. If you don't serve, if you don't have that feeling of identification or emotion or love to the Guru, and if you don't question the Guru, this knowledge will not serve you. So these three qualities are essential to making a student worthy of receiving the knowledge. So when we come back next to this class, I will pick up this verse again and clarify it further. Okay. Now, I think Jayamma has a short announcement to make. So, yes, Jayamma, you have the access to your microphone.
Hari Om Guruji, Hari Om everyone. As you all are aware, next Sunday, 5th July, is Guru Purnima Day. And we will be having a special session of Guruji. It will not be on the regular Adobe platform. It will be on the Zoom platform. And there is a Zoom ID with which you have to log into the session. And the details of the Zoom ID, etc., is there in the flyer, which has been already circulated in the Wisdom Satsang group. And the timings will be the same. From 11 to 11:15, we shall have bhajans. 11:15 to 11:20, we'll have significance of Guru Purnima. 11:20 to 11:30, group chanting of Guru Stotram and Guru Paduka Stotram. Guruji will address us from 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. That will be followed by a question answer session as long as it takes. And the program will conclude with the Shanti Mantra. So kindly, since this platform has a great potential to bring in many more people, I would request all of you to kindly take this message and spread it as much as you can, because this is the most contemporary topic which Guruji is going to address. It is loneliness to aloneness. And as you are all aware, we all are going through difficult times because of COVID. And I think the youth really needs this session. It would be highly rewarding to all of us if we can really take this message to the next generation or even deeper than that, because lot of children are going through a lot of loneliness these days, and Guruji has chosen the right topic for the right occasion. So I would request all of you to do your bit and see that we have a good number. And I'm sure you are all having uh, a fair idea as to how to log into Zoom. If you have any doubt, you can reach me on the Satsang group. We will clarify to you. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Sethuramanji, you have anything to say?
Sir, it will be, Guruji, it will be nice if people say they are attending or how many of their family members, others are joining. That numbers will help us. If they can message or that.
Okay. Yes, I think uh, please communicate to us. You have the channel of the emails where you all receive the invites for the regular classes. You could be a part of the Wisdom Satsang group where you are already a part of that group, and you may have heard through friends or acquaintance about the event. If you can let us know about your participation so that we can make necessary arrangements so that the platform can serve the needs and the demand. So we are working with certain constraints on the platform of Zoom, which we are scheduled to have the Guru Purnima celebration. So your uh, communication would help us to make the necessary arrangements at our end. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Harihi Om.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.